and learn how to correct that. And the example that I might give you is, for example, nursing homes, where there is a lot of absentee ballots. Well, election law sets it up so that if there's more than 25 absentee ballots in a nursing home, we actually send a Democrat and a Republican over there, 2 staff members over there, to provide an opportunity for all those people to vote with both of them there. So that, in essence, their absentee ballots, none of the people don't come in, the staff can't pressure them, other people in the nursing home don't pressure them. We actually give them the opportunity to come in, we set it up so they can vote, and do it in a comfortable environment without that kind of pressure. And the only reason I tell you about that is because as we experience new ways of voting, if we were to look at early voting, it's something I strongly support. If we were to do that, we would begin to find ways to try to mitigate all of the potential, ways of it breaking down. And we do learn to do that better and better all the time. I think in New York in particular, the integrity of voting is pretty high. I mean, it's not perfect, no place is perfect, but I think in this state, because we're one of only about 6 states in the whole country where the election process is bipartisan all the way from the state level all the way down to the polling site. Only in about 6 states in the whole country is that true. So I think that has actually helped us to keep in some particularly large metropolitan areas the corruption or the problems with voting at least to the minimum. And I think we've seen that. So that's why we shouldn't be afraid of new ways of voting, new things that can help us vote more often. Same-day registration, again, another situation that I support so strongly. I mean, I support early voting so strongly that I actually work with a group of 6 other people, 6 other commissioners in the state, and we wrote the governor and the speaker of the assembly, and you probably don't even realize it, but they did pass an early voting bill in the assembly 2 years ago. And my colleagues and I were a strong support of getting that passed through the assembly. No hope of it going anyplace else beyond that. But we worked and we provided them with a paper. We did research across the country about how it works in other places, what we might do. Do you do voting centers, regional centers? Do you have a regional center for your area to just go to, or can you go to any regional center? We looked at all of that and what it would take. But we can't back away from these different new ways because we're afraid. Think about it. Susan B. Anthony would have a fit. Frederick Douglass would have a fit. We can't be afraid of that. We have to push forward. And that's kind of what I wanted to say relative to her comments over there. So.
I think it's also helpful to know things, and you can't expect all the electorate to do that, but I would say the people in this room can do it. The commissioner gave us an example of trying to make a change in the system that the league has been supporting for 30 years. We're so glad they caught up with us. So. Not this one in particular, but the election inspectors in the state of New York. We have a senator who's Monroe County and Ontario County, and he is the chair of the Senate Election Committee. Chairs have a lot of influence in the state of New York. That bill will go through that committee or not. That chair has almost total individual say, almost, on whether it gets to the floor. Now, if you live in Senator Funke's district and you think these changes should be made, you don't need to write every senator in the state of New York. You need to focus on that senator this year and say, you think these should be changes. The other thing is, it's not going to happen this year. As Susan B. Anthony told us, and Frederick Douglass did, and she did, it takes a long time. You can't expect next year, before the presidential election, is going to happen. But if you start tomorrow, and you live in that district, and you say, by the way, has your committee looked at, by the way, do you have someone that will introduce the bill for discussion? Never mind voting on it, it's going to take years, but you have to start, and that's a very focused, very easy way for the people in this community to influence a big change in the entire state of New York. And most people can't even name who chairs these committees. And it matters a lot who chairs these committees.
There have been several questions about how you find election information, who your candidates are, what their position on issues are. The League of Women Voters nationally supports the Vote 411 election website. You put in your address and you will see every candidate on your ballot. And we have sent questions to the candidates. Sadly, very few have responded and posted their responses to our questions. If you would give me your address or an address in your district.
44.
24?
44.
Okay. Not here. Okay,
Rochester Street?
I'm sorry.
Rochester Street. Missing a T.
I'm missing a T, sorry.
Scottsville.
I'm sorry?
Scottsville.
Scottsville. Scottsville. And your zip code?
14546.
14546. Sorry, the projector is very noisy when you're next to it. Okay, so it's telling you when the election is. You get personalized information on your candidates. We're going to ask it to show your races. So again, we have the county executive. None of them have responded, but they're there. The district attorney candidates. And there you are. So it provides her address, her campaign phone number, if you have questions, her website, send her an email, and the questions that we asked. What do you see as the main challenge the county faces, and what solutions do you propose? And there were several, you can see she gave us a very detailed answer. The question about financial stability for the county, service for the aging, and child care subsidies. So we asked very specific questions that allowed room for any position on it, but really trying to get a real answer to the question.
How far down in the local offices do you go? Just the
Every single office in Monroe County is there. I mean, down to the superintendent of highways and the receiver of taxes. Just don't ask me what a receiver of taxes actually does, but they are, every office is there. So again, it's vote411.org, and we have flyers about
on
it.
the table, or is
These
those
are
there?
I want to piggyback a little bit on what Catherine said, but that we don't really get involved except only when we think about an election. And this is something that has bothered me for a long time. I've knocked on a lot of doors in September, October, and just before the election, but we never contact any of those people in the off years. Can't we find a way to engage with them? First of all, they're not aware, they don't know who I am, I haven't even made a relationship with them. Isn't that a better way for them, at least the two major parties, to get the same people that they always manage to get in September and rally in the off years to be able to just know who either your neighborhood or to go into other neighborhoods, to talk about civics, to talk about what is it, I think there's just so much ignorance about it that people feel, I have no idea. When I was working for a person, I think it was last September, the person had no idea. He said, tell me, are we talking about something like for the governor or for the school board? And I realized people this appeared like an intelligent, educated man. And I sort of took the look off my face and I thought, okay, let's start backwards. But why do we wait until 2 months before an election before we can engage people?
Over here.
One here, and then...
I was sitting here thinking about the subject of tonight's meeting, which is why don't we vote? And I may be wrong, but my assumption is that this crowd votes. So the topic really is, why don't they vote?
Right.
That's a different thing. And I suspect that, or at least I hypothesize, that it has to do with feedback. We're used to delayed gratification. We vote and we see a result the next day, we see a result later that evening, but we don't get an immediacy, an immediate reaction to the vote. So my hypothesis is that they don't vote because there's no clear linkage between the vote and what occurs, and as a group, because of education and so forth, they're not really used to dealing with or accepting delayed gratification. They need something more immediate, like there ought to be a votometer in a polling place, so that when you cast your vote, I don't know, another bubble appears on it. So.
It seems to me, to follow up on the title of today's meeting, we have two types of problems, and they require somewhat different approaches. One is the ease of voting in the first place, again, with the registration and how late the polls are open and what it takes to vote and whether you can vote by phone or not. And it seems to me they're not easy, but they're the easier part of the question. They can be defined, they can be resolved. If you beat enough heads of the legislature together, you can get the system in place that can deal with many of those issues. The more difficult issue is the one when Dr. Nealon showed the list of reasons up there, the first one being I'm too busy, and then a couple of others along the same line. And basically, that's not really an excuse. What is being said there is that I have not yet found why voting impacts my life, and why I need to be part of this process. I think what Mr. Moses is doing is wonderful in getting people involved at that level, but my goals are more modest. I would just like people that are reasonably aware to go to the polls when they're open and cast a reasonably intelligent vote when that happens. And part of it has to do with education. I don't know whether what we used to call civics is even taught anymore, whether there's anything that goes on in the formal education process that helps people relate to the electoral process. And certainly, you talked about media bashing. Believe me, you can't bash them enough, because that's the source of the information that, one, motivates people to vote, and then provides the information on which they can cast their ballot. And those are real difficult institutions to deal with. But I think getting to that fundamental reason of those 40% of the people that don't even care is where you need to work on those issues. And they are the tough ones.
Can I say something regarding We talk about civics, is it taught? The focus for the city school district has been around ELA and math. No one has really asked the question about social studies. We're seeing it at the high school level in terms of global, where they're failing global at astronomical rates. The theory of community involvement is taught in social studies. So relevancy starts at different levels. So in the education process, when we're starting with our children in elementary school, those numbers are dismal at best. So the process, we gotta start a lot sooner in really teaching those things, because it's not, I agree, it's not relevant. It's not relevant because it's not on my mind. I can't connect it to what I'm saying. So right now in education, we're just talking about ELA and math. We haven't even started a conversation about social studies, but we're seeing now the majority of our high school graduates did not pass the global exam, which includes the study of your neighborhood and your political system. So we have a lot of work in education we have to do.
Jen, after he's through.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment for what you just said. The league does have a program now that they're introducing to the high schools in the city of Rochester.
What grade?
And junior and senior. And goes through, why should we vote? What does it all mean? How did we get here? And then ends with, here's your registration form. Register now. We'll take it in for you, and you'll be all ready. So we're trying. One more, and then we have to wrap.
Just to follow up on what that gentleman said, I often tell, not often, but I have told relatives that come up to me and say, I'm not voting because of this and that and the other. I say, well, you're just leaving it open for somebody else to overcome what you would have voted, because they don't necessarily agree with you. So that's shirking your responsibility. But anyway, the main thing I wanted to talk about is that, again, the media. On the national level, I think some subjects are either taboo or minimised. And one illustration, this is a bit partisan, I'm afraid, but the TPP. Who has heard of the TPP? Not too many. It's a Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a deal that's being negotiated by corporations, for corporations, with the government acting as agent, but really the media being corporate owned, it's not in their interest that people should know about this. So how on earth can we make an informed decision? And one of the introductions to this meeting was that we want an informed and active participation, and the informed part of it is greatly lacking, I'm afraid.
I just want to say one word.
Yeah.
Relevant to what you were saying. The league has been involved in two programs. One is saying, take me to vote, and we were talking back here about modeling voting, and Wayne County does that. And what they do is that something at the 4th or 5th grade level, somewhere in there, that they have the students have a card, and they're supposed to pester their parents to take them to vote. And then when they get there, they put their card into something holding it, and this class that gets the most cards gets a pizza party. So we're trying to get them to model and say, hey, this is something you're going to get used to from day one. The other thing, referring back to what Jen said, the program that we've developed, it's a PowerPoint, is really about what they have probably heard but have forgotten about our struggle for the right to vote. And what we do, we start off by saying, you know, you're going to be 18, you're going to graduate, but there's one other thing you're going to be doing, and that is being eligible to vote at 18. And then we give that introduction, we do the arc of the struggle, because people have died for that right. That's not something that just as you can take and discard at your will. And so we really push it, and we try to make it local. We try to put the people who are now currently representing us at the school board and the county ledge and so forth, we try to tell them the issues that they vote on. This is what affects you the most. who you vote for president is not going to affect you as much as who is representing us at the city council and so forth. So that's what the league is working on, and we can always use more people helping us.
Well, thanks again for everybody for coming out tonight. Here's the thing, you heard from so many different voices, and yet I kind of heard one voice, that you're really concerned about what's happening with people checking out of the voting process. And we might have different barriers that we would point to, but here's the thing, each one of you, if you worked on one issue, right? You could make a difference. And I hear you about people not being informed. That's a serious problem. Although, having to Murgatroyd, WXXI has Voice of the Voter every year. They partner with several other institutions. City Newspaper, which is an independent newspaper, publishes information. So it's making that connection between the would-be seeker of knowledge and the knowledge that's actually out there. League of Women Voters has this tremendous website. Who's using it? Well, I am in my classes. But anyway, but who's using that and then getting the other structures? And you don't have to go through the Board of Education to get some of this stuff in the schools. Go to the teachers. I tell you, I work with social studies teachers K through 12 all the time. They are eager for things like this, unit plans that they can bring in, and they don't necessarily have to run through too many barriers to get into the classroom. You can make a difference locally. And then just finally, I think, again, don't try to change the system overnight. That was a brilliant point that you made.
Right.
If, a dam doesn't break all of the sudden, it cracks, it overtops, and then the soil erodes, and it changes. If we got 10% more people voting, we would see a difference. That could then lead to the kind of big global changes that you're talking about. But I think everyone's saying, well, it's not going to make a difference. We get a few more people to vote. Okay, so register 100 people and only 10 come out to vote. Well, praise heaven. That's 10 more people that are voting than last time. That's going to make a difference. So again, thank you for coming out. And please don't just leave it in your head. Do something about this starting tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening for this discussion. We're grateful to our excellent panel, Dr. Meehan, Dr. Kane, Mr. Moses, to Asbury First United Methodist Church and their wonderful facility, to all our members in the League of Women Voters, especially Jim Busak and our program committee, all of whom made this forum possible. Our presenters may have left some materials. The League definitely has materials on the table. Please stop before you leave. And also, we ask that you would fill out the evaluation form tonight that was on your chair and leave it on the basket on that table. We care about your impressions and your thoughts about our forums. We hope to see you here on October 19th when we present nuts, bolts, and monkey wrenches of a New York State Constitutional Convention. In the meantime, please drive carefully.